Great. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Buenas tardes. So my name is David Jimenez. I'm a financial aid counselor here at Cal Poly Pomona. I've been here at Cal Poly Pomona for about 10 months now. So I've been in financial aid about 7 years. I'm happy to be here, and this is a really great community project. So looking really forward to helping you guys as much as I can. I am going to share my screen. Okay, so here we are. Today we're going to talk about financial aid overview. So this is it's going to be 22 slides. There is going to be enough room, so in case anyone wants to ask any questions in the chat or anything like that, we can try to answer as much as we possibly can. But it does take about 40 to 45 minutes to get through everything. Okay. All right. So financial aid, who are we? So basically we're partners, right? So the first part is you guys. Parents and family. So parents and family, and then the student, and then financial aid, right? So all three of us together is going to help you, hopefully, give you some funds to pay for your education. So financial aid's mission. So our financial aid mission is to ensure that all eligible individuals benefit from federal, state, and we actually have institutional assistance. Basically, that is grants, loans, federal work study programs for education beyond high school, achieved by evaluating a family's ability to pay for education costs, distributing limited resources in an equitable manner, providing a balance of gift aid and self-help aid, which we'll go over what that means, and then addressing individual student situations by case, and we'll go over that as well. So first things first is, what do we do, right? So we answer questions. So we have counseling sessions, we answer phone calls, you know, we're here on campus. So we answer questions on providing guidance and assistance with completing the aid application. We also determine student financial aid eligibility. We also package students. So depending on what you qualify for, then we look to see what best benefits every student. Then we coordinate aid, that is federal aid, state aid, and then our own institutional aid. Another type of aid is athletic aid, like if you're a student athlete. We have internal scholarships, so that is, you know, our own scholarships. And then we also accept external scholarships, like if, let's say, you're getting one from your high school or from your community college or from your church or from your parents' job. McDonald's scholarship, any outside of the school is considered external scholarship. So we accept those as well. And then tuition waivers. So tuition waivers are like for me, right? So I decided to go back as a full-time graduate student. And then since I work here on campus, they help me pay for some of that. Another tuition waivers is, let's say you're a veteran or you're a dependent of a veteran. So things like that. So we have different tuition waivers. We'll go over that as well. Okay, so this is important. So for the 22-23 financial aid year, so what happens is that from July 1st to June 30th, that is considered our calendar, like our academic year. So the 22-23 financial aid application is now live. So that's students that are going to be starting school at Cal Poly for next fall. So after summer, next fall would be fall 2022, and then that spring semester 2023. Right now, currently, we're in the 21-22 academic year, and that will end basically this summer. So right now, applications are live. So we need everybody to apply for financial aid. Submit or renew your application. So if you're a current community college student, you would renew your financial aid application now to March 2nd for the following academic year. Be sure to file before the March 2nd deadline in order to be considered for the maximum aid package available. There's some financial aid, even if you do it on March 3rd and you would have qualified, you're not going to get it because you missed that deadline. So that's why it's really, really important to get your application in before March 2nd, no matter what. Even if you're not sure where you're going to go, or you're not sure about something, just get the application in. We can always make corrections later, and we'll explain something like that again. Okay, so what type of applications are available for you? So we have the FAFSA, which is on the left, which is a free application for student aid. And then we have the California Dream Act application. It's called the California Dream Act application, and that's on the right-hand side. So let's go over the FAFSA first. So to be considered for the FAFSA, you, the student, have to have a valid social security number. You, the student, are either a US citizen, a permanent resident, or an eligible non-citizen. What you'll do to complete this application, if you meet the criteria, then you go to studentaid.gov and then you complete it on there. Then we would see if you're eligible to receive the federal funds, the state funds, and the institutional grants. All right. For the California Dream Act application on the right-hand side, you, the student, do not have to meet the criteria for the FAFSA. And then you do have to meet the criteria as a student as California AB 540. So you have to be considered a California resident. To submit this application, remember, it's live now too. It's a different website, and that's dream.csac.ca.gov. That's through the California Student Aid Commission. That's what CSAC stands for. And then this one will give you eligibility for California State Aid and California Institutional Aid Program. Okay, so this is a lot of words, but I'm going to try to break it down. Okay, so college and universities offer financial aid to help meet costs. So financial aid is a little bit of everything, right? So types of amounts vary based on your family's ability to cover costs. So what happens is that, and we'll go over this, is that the next bullet point there says, what does EFC stand for? So there's a tuition charge. So basically, if you either do the FAFSA application or the DREAM Act application, depending on your household size and your household income, it's a equation to see what you qualify for, right? So let's say my family is 5 people in the family. So me, my spouse, and let's say 3 children, right? And then there's another person that has 5 people in the household, and I have more income, they have less income, then my expected family contribution is probably going to be a little higher, because remember, I'm expected to contribute more towards the education, right? So that's what that means. So your EFC amount is determined through the information that you submit on your FAFSA or your DREAM Act application. So you'll need to fill out the form completely to accurately ensure that the EFC is calculated properly. So what goes into an EFC? So we're right. Oh, let me go back. What goes into an EFC? So taxable income, untaxable income. So the first one is, and then based off the 22-23, it's going to be based off the 2020 income. So not the income that you're earning right now, because that'll be 2021, but last year's taxes. So 2020 taxable income. Then the second one is 2020 untaxable income. That would be like Social Security benefits, retirement income, things like that. Current cash savings or investments, current real estate and business net worth. So real estate wouldn't be the house that you occupy or you live in. It would be like if you have investment properties, like a second house that you rent out to someone or something like that. The number of people in your household, like we talked about, and then the number of people in your household that are going to be in college during that academic year. So remember, from July 2022 to June 2023, okay? So what types of aid does financial aid qualify students for? So the first one is free money, right? So this is the money that you do not have to repay. So grants and scholarships. So for FAFSA filers, remember, this is federal funding. You qualify for a Pell Grant, hopefully, and then supplemental educational opportunity grants. For the state grants, remember, this is for both FAFSA and DREAM Act application filers. And would be a Cal Grant, Middle Class Scholarship, or Chafee grants. That's for our foster youth. For institutional grants, remember, it's both FAFSA and DREAM Act applications. So it'd be the State University Grant or EOP, which is Education Opportunity Program. And then remember, for internal and external scholarships, it's both, depending on what type of scholarship you qualify for. So what is SelfHelp Awards? So SelfHelp Awards is for FAFSA filers. They offer something called work study. So work study is if there's a budget that you can possibly work on campus up to 20 hours per week, and then they will pay you out of that budget. So let's say you want to work for financial aid, right? As a student assistant. Then if you qualify for federal work study, remember this is only for FAFSA because it is federal funds. Then let's say we give you $5,000 as a budget. So you can work and be earning this money out of this budget, and we would be paying you out of that budget, depending on how many hours of work you put in. Just because you get federal work study doesn't mean you're going to get that budget. Remember, you have to actually work on campus, and then you qualify for that money to be released to you out of that budget. That doesn't mean that you have to be a work study student to get a job on campus. There's a lot of jobs on campus that don't require work study. Like if you want to work at the library or something like that, not the library, the bookstore, or things like that. There's a lot of jobs. So federal work study just opens up little extra doors on campus for students that basically need to get paid out of that budget. Now for student loans, this is SelfHelp Awards too, because basically you are going to have to pay this money back. So you're basically funding your education with part of your education with loans. So for federal loans, we have FAFSA filers and their parents can apply for this. For the 21-22 interest, so the current interest right now, if you're a student, so if you were enrolled right now and you wanted to take out a loan, the current interest rate is 3.73% for students. And that's a fixed interest. So it's not going to go up and down on you. It just stays locked in at that amount for this academic year. And then if, let's say, a parent wanted to apply for a parent loan, so let's say you want to live in the dorms and then you need extra money, then basically a parent can apply for FAFSA filers, and their interest level would be a fixed amount at 6.28%. Now, for next year, we don't know what the interest level is going to be yet. Because basically what happens is that every June, remember, these are government loans, the government decides what the interest level is going to be for the next year. So it usually goes up a little bit or down a little bit. It never is really like a lot, but expected to either go up or down a little bit. And then whatever that amount is for that year, it's locked. So to give you an example, last year for 20-21, it was 2.75. So see, it went almost up a percentage amount. So it always just changes from year to year, but we just don't know what it's going to be until June of the upcoming year. Okay. So for state loans, so DREAM Act application filers do also qualify for loans, but these are considered state loans and not federal loans. The interest is the same. Parents, unfortunately, cannot apply for this loan. It would only be for students. And then this one as well, you would basically not know exactly what the interest rate is going to be until June, right before the academic year starts of that year for next year. So remember, just to emphasize a lot, you must file the application by March 2nd to receive all the aid that you can possibly get, okay? There's no appeal process to this, you guys, okay? So there's nothing that you can possibly tell us that I've never seen this in 7 years that I've been working in financial aid. No one has ever done an appeal and got it approved, because you have 5 months to get this application in. And the application takes about 30 minutes. So there's nothing you can tell anyone that you couldn't do this in 30 minutes before the March 2nd deadline. So for FAFSA students, you're gonna have to create an FSA ID on studentaid.gov. And then if you're considered dependent, if you're, you know, below, we're going to go over this, but if you're below, usually if you're considered dependent, if you're below 24, so if you're 18, 19, 20, all the way up to 23, if you're not married, if you don't have children, if you're not a veteran, things like that, you're still considered dependent. So your parents are going to have to provide their information on the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application. And then for the FAFSA, your parents need to create an FSA ID just to be able to sign the application too. So for DREAM students, you must file by the March 2nd deadline as well for basically all the aid that you can possibly get, okay? And then our school code is right there. Cal Poly Pomona is the name of our school, and then our school code is 001144. So these are basically frequent errors. So they don't do the right application. So remember, if you're going to be coming to school fall 2022, spring 2023, or summer 2023, do the application for 22-23. Okay, so don't do the wrong year one. Another error that we always get is the name that's listed on the aid application does not match what's on Cal Poly Pomona record. So let's say I have two last names, right? So my name is David Jimenez, but let's say my name was David Jimenez Mendoza. So on school, I just put David Jimenez, and then on the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application, I put David Jimenez Mendoza. It's not going to match, right? So the application is never going to link with the school because basically it's not bumping, right? It's not connecting. Another example, it's, let's say my name is Gustavo Jimenez, right? And then I put on the FAFSA DREAM Act application Gustavo Jimenez, but in Cal Poly I put Gus because all my friends and all my family call me Gus. Well, it's never going to match. So make sure that whatever your legal name is, you use that for Cal Poly and the FAFSA application or the DREAM Act application. Very, very important. And then same thing, so that kind of goes into the third bullet. Your legal name does not match whatever you're basically you're applying for, right? Like the Gustavo and the Gus or the two last names, things like that. So make sure that whatever your legal name is, you're consistent without everything you do for the university and the application you're trying to get aid for. So special circumstances. So I get this a lot, and we're going to go over this, but basically anything that cannot be documented on your aid application. So let's say, so we get this a lot, okay? So I'm gonna go over a scenario. So I get a student that calls in today and says, "Hi, David, I'm trying to complete my application for 22-23. I'm going to be transferring, I'm a high school senior, and I'm doing the application, but it's asking me, my parents now are separated or they're divorced, or unfortunately one of my parents passed away, things like that, right? But in 2020, when they did their taxes, they were still together. So what do I do? So what you have to do is you have to put everything that matches right on the FAFSA, on the tax information. You have to put it right onto the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application. So on the DREAM Act application or the FAFSA, basically you're going to be able to put, you know, my parent now is separated, or my parent now is widowed, or anything like that in those scenarios, what your current situation is. But when it comes to the income part of it, you're going to put whatever matches the tax information for that 2020 year, okay? Even though that's not the situation now, it has to match whatever the taxes were for that 2020 aid year. That takes us to our next bullet. We will do appeals for this available in March. So if you do your application, so remember, we can't start the appeal process until March because the deadline isn't until March 2nd. So we have to give everybody the opportunity to get their applications in. In March, we would start meeting with students and then starting to, let's say in a scenario where the parents separated, now we can start separating the income. So we would ask you to provide 2020 taxes, and then a W-2 for one parent, W-2 for the other parent, and then we will separate the income to do what the actual household income is today, now, things like that. So due to COVID, right? COVID was horrible for everybody, right? So a lot of people unfortunately lost their jobs, or they got decreased a job. A lot of people, lost restaurants, they lost, everything. So in 2020, they might have still been doing okay. But now in 2021, unfortunately, they lost a lot of income. So when you're doing your application, remember, put everything that's correct on the 2020 taxes. And then in March, April, June, you can start doing the appeal process, and then we will go over your current situation, and then we will adjust that EFC to see what you truly qualify for financial aid. So don't worry about that. Just get the application in with the right information, and then we can go over whatever necessary documents we need to do that appeal process for you next semester in March or April. All right, so that's basically what we went over. The next bullet is loss of income, change in circumstance, that's like marital status, things like that. And then dependency status, we get this one a lot. Like I said, unfortunately, some people pass away. Some people, they're considered, they think that they're considered independent now, but they're really dependent. So get the application in the way it's supposed to be, and then we can go over these case-by-case scenarios starting in March. So let's talk about scholarships. So right now, even though you're not a student at Cal Poly, you can still apply for scholarships now using our website. So you would go to that website right there, and then applications for the 22-23 academic year, which is basically next fall, next spring, which we talked about, are open. So what you need to do is just have an application into our school, so you have a student ID number, and then you would be able to use that student ID number and start applying for scholarships, because any scholarship that you get basically be awarded for that academic year. So that's a really neat thing to do. So for the scholarships, here is, you would go to the website, and then this will pop up right here. There's a video you can watch on how to apply for scholarships. Remember, you need your student ID number because you need to be able to go into the BRONCOS scholarship portal, and then you would just apply for scholarships. What's really neat about the application scholarship process is that you do a general application. So they're going to ask you, are you a first-generation college student? Are you, what's your nationality? How old are you? What's your major? Things like that. So you do a general application, and then depending on the answers that you provided for that general application, it's like a filter. Then it'll say, okay, cool. It looks like you matched the nursing one. So here's the nursing scholarships. And then it'll have you do individual scholarships. So it's first things first for the internal scholarships is that you do just a general application, and then it'll start trying to filter the ones you qualify for so you don't waste your time. Okay? Let's go on to the next thing. So this is what happens actually basically for the next steps of basically your journey, right? What happens? So the first thing you do is you do your applications, right? For the university. So the university applications, October 1st to November 30th, 2 months. Then you have financial aid application. So October 1st to March 2nd. So basically that's going on now. So you get those applications in, and you still have, about 4 months to go, this month and then 3 more months. Then you have the scholarship application. So once you do your admissions application, you have your ID number, you do your financial aid application, the FAFSA or the DREAM Act application, now start doing scholarships. So like that, we can gather as much aid as we possibly can to make this affordable for you and your family. So this actually just goes into the deadlines again. So it's available now. If you're at a community college, or if you're a high school student, make sure that your institution turns in your Cal Grant GPA before March 2nd as well. For high school students, 99% of the schools, they automatically do it for you. Just go to the college advisor and make sure that they do yours for you. And then for community college, just make sure someone at the university is doing it for you, or that college is doing it for you, or go to the California Student Aid Commission website and submit your GPA verification before March 2nd for the next academic year. Do your application prior to March 2nd. And then sometimes you're going to be selected for verification, which means, let's say you put a round number. So let's say you're doing your FAFSA, your Dream Act application, and you don't really have the taxes in front of you. And your parent, let's say, is telling you to do, or you, if you're independent, you're like, I think I made about 25,000. So I'm just going to put 25,000. So if it's a round number, that's kind of a red flag. So the government is going to say, you know what, you're going to have to provide your taxes. So we make sure that the number that you put is accurate with the number that you filed your taxes with for that year, for the 2020 year. Or let's say you put 10 people in your household, then that's usually really rare that people have 10 people in the house. It happens though. So what they're going to do is select you for verification, so you can list everybody that you have in your household. So things like that. So if you're selected for verification, we will let you know in March, and then you will have until June. So you have all of March, all of April, and then June. Basically, it's sort of like June 24th, around there. It was this year. You have basically all of June to get, so March, April, May, and then June, and then basically to get those documents into us so we can maximize your aid. So here are some trusted sources, and we're going to go over these. So here is where you would apply for the FAFSA. So studentaid.gov. So this is kind of like a one-stop shop for everything that you have to do if you're a federal filer. So you would apply for FAFSA here. You would create, so let's go to one. Let's see if this works. Actually, let me stop sharing first. Edward, can you confirm that you can see this? Good. So here is the studentaid.gov website. So if you want to apply for aid, complete the FAFSA form, right? You do that. If you want to, so we are going to have FAFSA workshops too, you guys. So I'm going to go over that. Project Camino is going to have their own workshop, but you can apply in our financial aid workshops too. And we go, unfortunately, right now with ours, we can't do in person because of COVID restrictions and things like that. But we had one last week and it was really successful. We did everything on Zoom. We shared screens. We went over taxes. We did everything step by step. And we have another one, I think, coming up next week. Well, we'll go over that calendar. So basically, so complete the FAFSA. It talks about the deadlines. And then let's say you want to create an account, the FSA ID, prior to coming into a workshop, just so you're ready to go, you go right here, create an account. So you would just hit create an account, and then it would tell you, are you the student? Are you the parents? Who are you? So you can create that FSA ID. So and then when you come to one of our workshops, or you want to do it on your own, you already did the first step of it. So you can be able to log in and sign the application. So that's one of our websites. You know what? I'm just going to go keep doing this. Here's the Dream Act application. Let's see if I can just. So here's the Dream Act application. Okay. So basically, you just go to that website. And remember, it's through the California Student Aid Commission that grants state aid. So Cal Grant, middle class scholarship, things like that. Then we have our financial aid website. Okay, we'll go to that one. Okay, so here is our website. So basically, the types of aid. So let's say prospective students, and then you put how to apply for FAFSA, how to apply for, but what kind of aid do we provide? So you go here, and then basically here's everything we kind of talked about. The fee waivers, the work study, the loans, the Cal Poly, the institutional aid, the state aid, the scholarships, the federal aid, okay? And then, but what I like the most out of all these tabs is right here on the right, resources. So if you go right here to resources, here's our workshops right here. FAFSA and California Dream Act workshops. So you go here, you go down, and here are our workshops. So remember, we had one last week, we have one next week. We have some on, so look at this one, December 2nd, Spanish interpreter will be available. We have some that are Saturdays. We have some that are during the day, like this one's during the day, 12 to 1:30. We have some that are at night, like this one. In case you want to join with your parent and your parent works, or you work, or you come at night. I think this one, the January 29th one, is a weekend one. So just check your calendars, whichever one works for you. Remember, they're all before March 2nd because you have to get it in before March 2nd. If you want to go ahead and do yours now, and maybe you get stuck, save it right there and then sign up for registration, and then we'll continue right where you got left off. So if you want to attempt to do it on your own, go ahead. And then if you need help, just join one of our sessions and we'll be able to help you out. And then here are the dates again, okay, you guys? Okay, so go back to the presentation. We have financial aid TV videos. These are really neat. So financial aid TV videos are like 1 minute to 2 minute clips, like YouTube videos that basically explain things to you. So let's say you want to know, like this. Let's say you're a family member, right? Or I'm a parent. Am I required to complete the FAFSA and pay for my student's education? So you click on it, and then it gives you a playlist of the things that it believes that you're going to want to answer. You want answers to. So it'll play a video, and then see, this one's only 43 seconds. And then it'll go into, what does EFC stand for? What does this stand for? And it's like a little playlist, and each one of these is like a minute, 36. This one's 36 seconds.
What does the term EFC
so they're all different little videos, and these really, really help out a lot. Okay, so that's another trusted site, and that's a Cal Poly website. We have Ask Billy, which is a chat box. And then our website, which we went over. And then let's see, what else do we have? Remember, by phone, by email, we have all this information, which is right here. So we're here to help you. We're here to evaluate, remember, or reevaluate your certain circumstance. Remember, due to certain situations, case-by-case scenarios. So remember, by live chat, by our phone, which is right here. Here's a live chat. So the live chat is right here. So if you go to any of our websites, let me go to like this one, or let me just say, like, I'm going to financial aid, right? So CPPFA. Okay, so I go to our website. What pops up right here in this bottom right corner, this is Billy Chat. So it's trying to ask you, hey, do you need help with anything? Do you not see something here? So let's click on it. And let's ask, what's the FAFSA deadline? And let's see what it tells us. So here, it gives you the answer right here. So see, it tells you how to apply for FAFSA. It takes you right to our webpage. So here's a bunch of different answers, right? But here's the answer right here, March 2nd. So anything that you type here is going to try to answer the question for you, or it'll give you a video link. Okay. So just depending on, let's ask another thing, like what is Pell Grant. So look at this one, even gives you videos, a 1.5-minute video. So basically answers your question. The Pell Grant is a federal grant for FAFSA filers. This money does not have to be repaid. And then it even shows you a video. And there's 4 videos actually for this one. So basically you can watch a little video, and this is really, really helpful for, let's say, after we're closed, right? So we work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday for the most part. So let's say you're on Saturday and you're with your family and you have a question, ask Billy. For most of the part, they're gonna know the answer. But if it doesn't, it'll say, you know what, unfortunately, I don't know the answer. Here's the phone number of the school, here's the hours, or here's their email address, and email them. And that goes to our next slide. So ask Billy. If Billy can't give you the answer, but you can see that Billy knows a lot, then basically you can call us or you can email us. And then basically we'll get to you as soon as possible. Just remember, when you email us, try to include your name and your ID number so we can look into your situation. And then we can either call you back or email you back. All right. Cool. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. Now we still have about 20 minutes. I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'll let Edward take over and see.
Hi, David. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for providing us with the information. As we were going through the presentation, there was a couple of questions that came up. The first one indicating what makes a student eligible for FAFSA or for the financial aid?
Yeah, so basically it's 2 different things, right? So it's really just financial need. So basically, when you're thinking about financial need, what you need to do is remember that EFC that we talked about, expected family contribution. So depending on what your household size and your household income is, it gives you it's like a formula, right? So let's say my family is 3 people. Edward's family is 5 people. My household income is 50,000. His household income is 50,000. Since my household size is only 3 and his is 5, then his EFC, expected family contribution, is going to be lower, right? Because it's a formula of the household size and the household income. So the lower your EFC number is, the more you can possibly qualify for financial aid. That means is whatever that number is, the EFC, remember it's a formula, then it basically calculates what you might qualify for. And then basically we will award you based off that formula.
Perfect. Thank you, David. Another question that came from Liz, are there grants for community college transfer students?
Yeah, a lot. So everything we talked about. So depending on, remember, if you're a FAFSA filer or a DREAM Act application filer, then basically you have the Pell Grant if you're the FAFSA filer, or the SDOG grant. And then remember and then you still have the state grants, the Cal Grant A, the Cal Grant B, the middle class scholarship, all those. And then you have the state university grants, and then you have loans. And then on the state side, remember the California DREAM Act application, remember the one on the right? Then you have the state funding, which is the Cal Grant A, the Cal Grant B, and then our state university grant, which is the institutional grants, and then the Cal loans, the DREAM Act loans, remember. So yeah, so basically, remember, if you're a transfer student, there's lifetime limits. So depending on how much you used, if you used any aid at all at your community college, then we have to take that into consideration. So remember, there's lifetime limits for everything. If you ask Billy Chat, or if you look at one of those websites, it will tell you what your lifetime limits are. Like for Cal Grant, right? It's 4 years. For federal Pell Grant, it's 6 years at full-time status. So depending on your situation, but right now, guys, just turn in the application and start working on scholarships, especially for transfer students or incoming students. There's a lot of scholarships available, but they expire if it's not your first term. So basically, so remember, if you try to do, so we have some scholarships that are just intended for incoming students, high school or transfer. But if you miss that window as an incoming student and you try to do it on your second year here, it's too late for those scholarships. So make sure you try to take advantage of as many as possible.
Thank you. And it's we actually tapped into the following questions that we had a little bit. So the other following question we have, what's the difference between a FAFSA and a DREAM application? Can you apply for both?
No. So remember that slide we went over? Let me pull it up and then I'll share my screen. So remember this screen, you guys? Share screen. I'll just leave my sharing screen too. So remember, it's either you apply on the left if you qualify for the left, or you qualify on the right. You can't do both, because basically either you're eligible for FAFSA, and that gives you a little more aid, because remember, you qualify for federal, state, and institutional, or if you don't qualify for FAFSA, but you have to be a California resident, then you qualify for the California DREAM Act application. So one or the other.
Then the following question would be, can a student get Cal Grant A and Cal Grant B?
No. So it's either one or the other. Even middle class scholarships. So a lot of students, that's a good question. So Cal Grant determines what you're going to get, right? And they let us know as an institution, or they let any institution know what the California Student Aid Commission is going to award that student. So the Cal Grant A, for instance, just pays for tuition amounts. Cal Grant B pays for tuition amount, and they give you about $1,600 per year as a stipend money, which means that money you can use for books, that money you can use for parking, that money you can use for a laptop, for like a computer or something, anything that's school related. So the better one to have of the both is Cal Grant B, because that one gives you the extra $1,600. But you can only qualify for either Cal Grant A or Cal Grant B. They're both still great, right? Cal Grant A is still paying for your tuition charges, which is awesome. Some students that they go to these presentations and stuff, they say, you know what, my parents made too much money. I'm not even gonna apply for FAFSA or the DREAM Act application. Don't be that student, because California Student Aid Commission has this thing called the middle class scholarship that a lot of people don't know. For the middle class scholarship, some parents are like, oh, my dad, he made about 120,000. I'm not gonna get anything. Why waste my time? Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's a myth, because if I show you, just to give you an example, if I show you for the middle class scholarship, so if you type in what's the max amount middle class scholarship, so your family can have income up to $191,000 in 2020 and still qualify for a grant, hopefully. So a lot of people believe that, my dad made 120, my dad made 140, my family did this. Apply, because you never know what you're gonna get. If you miss the March 2nd deadline, you're not gonna receive this. And then so apply, even if you just qualify for loans and you say, you know what, I'm not going to take the loans, at least you tried. That's very, very important, you guys. Please apply by March 2nd, because you never know what you're going to get.
Thank you. And then there's another question that just came in from Maya. When does the dependency appeal for 22-23 open up?
March. So all the appeals start March. So basically, we just have to give everybody the opportunity to get their application in before March 2nd. We don't want to start reviewing stuff now, because first of all, we don't even know if you're going to come to our institution, right? Because you haven't decided, right? You're putting in a bunch of applications in. We don't know what your situation is going to be by March. So we have to give everybody the fair opportunity to get their DREAM Act application, FAFSA application before that March 2nd deadline.
Perfect, thank you. The following one, Benedict, and please feel free to go ahead and elaborate a little bit more, but he indicated, is that the amount adjusted income, taxes applied in parentheses? Are you referring to the 191,000 that David shared with us earlier?
I didn't understand the question. What was it, Edward?
Is that amount adjusted income?
Correct. Yeah. So everything that you're right. So it's a great question. So once you do the application process, it goes off adjusted gross income. So adjusted gross income would be, let's say I have working wages, right? So I'm working here at Cal Poly, and then I have, let's say, an investment property. So the money that I'm bringing in from that rent, that's all part of my household income, the adjusted gross income. Let's say, there's different types of income on your taxes. Let's say I won a lottery, right? That's gambling income. That goes part of my adjusted gross income. So different things, pensions, things like that, that all goes towards that adjusted gross income.